There we go. Alright. Well, new rating video means, yeah, score changed significantly enough, or in the case of Sky 3, the document changed enough to warrant another new rating video. And besides, this will be the rating video in this format, so there's that. So, let's do it. So, as I adjust it here to make it easier to read. So, 11 sessions, no cheats, played the Steam version, which apparently I played too early. Thanks for revealing that, Steam machine. Let's just get into it. So, a lot of this is going to be the same from the old one, but there will be a few differences. Specifically in the story negatives, but yeah. And in the gameplay, for sure. Because we ended up with plus 81 to story and negative 4 to gameplay. So, let's get into it. Triple positive for the humor. I really don't think I need to explain that. Devil May Cry effect, full effect, yep. Sprite work, yeah. I still feel the brickwork is good enough to warrant 2 positives. I think I only gave it a single last time. But regardless, yeah, two positives to the brickwork in general, with special mention and additional positives to Bose, Ruan, the Genis Royal Academy, and Grand Cell for brickwork. Then there's Doodads usage, which I think in general warrants a triple. And I stuck to just that for that. I didn't feel like giving Doodads to like multiple places, because I didn't think any individual place really worked that well. Well, Doodad usage-wise, so there's that. I feel like the animations are good. I like the use of Limblom effect. The NPC chatter is good. The background lore is good. The world building, that's something you're going to hear a lot in these rating videos for that. The low tier storytelling, the theme of getting a down to earth perspective to be a better bracer, that's good. Consequence storytelling, yeah. Visual storytelling, dialogue, banter, localization, all positive worthy, all great. 8. Foreshadowing. Triple positive to foreshadowing. There's a lot of good foreshadowing, and that's one thing I have to say I love about this series. There's a lot of good foreshadowing on display. And I don't care who agrees with me on it. Do I have it on shuffle? Seriously? Hang on. Come on. I don't want it on shuffle, damn it. That's not how I do these things. Anyways. Okay, I'm recording, not streaming. Good. Ooh, that would have been embarrassing. Anyways. Babylon 5 effect. Which is funny, because actually that would have been a fitting thing for that, but we'll get to that. I like Estelle and Joshua as protagonists, Ignis, and I like their dynamic together. Each of them was there 2 positives each, and then I gave a positive to their dynamic. As much as I do find some of her dialogue kind of cringy and not very good, Shara is still funny and kind of awesome. Olivier is still one of my favorite characters in the whole series, and he is easily a triple positive even right here at the beginning. I like Niall. I think he's a really good example of a journalist. Dorothy is hilarious, and she is a delight every single time she's on screen. I mean, like, seriously, almost all of her dialogue makes me laugh, so that's good. Professor Alba is a well-handled character that, in my opinion, works well. He'll and works as a character you aren't really supposed to notice how often he's conveniently around. So that's cool. I like Mayor Maybell. Well, I find she's kind of awesome, and a good way to rein in General Moron, aka General Morgan. I'll praise General Morgan in Sky 2, but as far as Sky 1 goes, yeah, no, he sucks. He is such a goddamn moron. Somebody who's not a moron, though, is Colonel Richard, as he is a great contrast as to Morgan, as he understands the value of the Bracer Guild and that the Bracer Guild brings to the table. He is also affable and has a brain in his head, which makes the fact that he ends up becoming the antagonist of this story all the more gut-wrenching. So 2 positives there. Chloe is awesome, as is Julia. Tita is an absolute frickin' delight, even with the thing we'll be bitching about with her and Agate in the negatives. I really like Keelika. I find Keelika to just be a delight. Right. Love how intelligent and cunning she is. Mr. Murdoch is actually honestly a great character and one that I've always liked, even during my first playthrough. Then there's Professor Russell, Tita's grandfather. His eccentricity is well handled, and while I'm not sure I'd get along with him in real life, he is a very well done character that makes me laugh when he needs to. But can get serious when the situation calls for it. So triple positive there. I have always liked Jin. I love the strong as a grizzly bear, gentle as a teddy bear kind of character. Love Headmate Hilda, and the fact she's voiced by Sharon is just interesting. It is interesting. Love how no nonsense she is, and I love the swiftness of her plan to get Estelle and Joshua into the Royal Keep. That's all great stuff. Then there's Queen Alicia, who is awesome, especially if you have played not only the rest of the Sky Trilogy, but the Crossbow Duology as well. But even so, I still think she warrants a positive there. The opening movie, that honestly I think it's great and is at showing details while not being too spoilery, which is funny because the only problem I have is actually with the first shot of the opening, which I didn't realize until I looked at it again. Oh yeah, the original opening did have that spoilerific thing. It's just it's in more detail in the remake's opening. The intro, which I end with the prologue, I think is a great introduction to everything. And works really, really well. The clock tower scene. Needless to say, I like the clock tower scene in Chapter 1. It's great at establishing Estelle's reason for being a bracer and continuing the developing relationship with Joshua. After viewing it again, this is the first scene that really shows how well developed of a character she is and how nice and subtle the dialogue is. So I ended up giving it a triple positive. Olivier's song diffusing the confrontation at Hakan Gate. Still a great moment, still one that I really enjoy. Might not put up an image for that, but I'm definitely going to do the clock tower scene. So there's that. Estelle and Joshua's heart-to-heart at Valeria Lake. That's honestly a good dive into their characters and shows how much Estelle cares about Joshua. I like the scene where we say goodbye to Sharon and Olivier. Hey, some good humor on display there. Despite my issues with the character of Clem, I do like when we go and save Clem from the Ravens. I think it's a good scene and shows the kind of arrogance that arrogance should show. Slight, but not overwhelming to the point of wanting to kick him in the dick. When I did the Return to Trail series, the auto mod on Twitch, there was a test for the auto mod we did that which honestly should not be how I feel about him all the time. So I'm gonna just nuke that off of the thing, because honestly the auto mod gag makes no sense unless it's in the original version. So it also shows how much Clem cared about the orphanage, so there's that. And, well, I'm not going to show that one. I am going to show this next one. Because convincing Duke Dunan to leave Erletten. Good scene. Really, really like that scene. Very much so. Oh. And then there's the play. Yeah, I really like the play at the school festival. It may seem like filler, but it's the best kind of filler in my opinion, as it allows the heavier themes to take a break and just have some fun. It also helps that the play is well presented as a high school play. Hey, it also shows the adaptability of Estelle and Joshua. Some people consider it to be kind of nasty filler, but and I do kind of agree with that, and I do have my issues, as we'll discuss in the negatives, but I still think it's it's still a good thing. I also love the part after it where it's revealed that the Academy did some fundraising to get money to rebuild the orphanage. Great scene. Love that as a heartwarming end to the dark plot line. At least until Gilbert and his douchebaggery strikes, but that's neither here nor there. Speaking of douchebags, the entire confrontation with Mayor Dalmore is great stuff. He exposes himself in the lie, the dialogue is sharp and well written, and it even hints at the powers of the Black Orbit. So, two positives there. I also really like Julia showing up in the RSA and arresting Dalmore. That's great stuff. And I gave Chapter 2 a positive overall. Oh. As much as I don't like Agate in Sky 1, his confrontation with Lawrence at the start of Chapter 3 is honestly his best scene in the entire game, as it gives us a bit of an insight into him and shows that there is more to him than just an arrogant asshole. So, cool. Then there's the side quest Smoker's Revolt, which is, I think, a nice little side story that helps showcase that the events have consequences outside of the ones we see. Murdoch getting a craving after presumably mostly kicking the habit due to stress, as that was caused by the orbital shutdown, is believable and realistic in a way that doesn't feel like it's trying to be real life, more of just a taste of it. In other words, it's less, we need to be realistic, and more of a, well, let's just be as believable as we can, you know? Estelle and Tita's heart-to-heart in the almost hot springs, despite what it leads to, is actually kind of cool, and I kind of like it. Then there's the reveal of that Colonel Richard is the true culprit. I like that scene, as it feels more like a big reveal only if you didn't guess it beforehand, right? The framing of the scene is less dun 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 and more, oh yeah, by the way, if you haven't figured it out, he's the villain. He's the bad guy, right? It's well handled. It doesn't feel like a villain reveal because Richard is A, not evil, and B, doesn't see himself as the bad guy. Major Sid trying to make up for his mistakes is another great scene. When he sneaks us out of there. And then Agate taking the Russells into his care, or to get them somewhere safe, while keeping Estelle and Joshua's reps clean, is actually the best scene with Agate, hands down, and the only scene where I actually like him as a character, admittedly. This is Agate Kronzer, a man who will take a bullet for a friend. Not the fucking jackass we have been dealing with throughout the entire rest of the game, you know? Also, I really like Chapter 3. It is my favorite in the whole game. Love it. There's really only 5 chapters total. Chapters 1, 2, and 3, the prologue, and then the finale, so. The coup plot, which, let's face it, doesn't get started until the tail end of Chapter 3, is also good and well thought out, in my opinion. The heart-to-heart between Estelle and Joshua after meeting with Julie and Grandseal is great. It shows character development for both, and better still, it gets payoff in the ending. The whole meeting with Queen Alicia, that is just awesome. With her explaining what happened with Cassius in the 100 Days War, or, that's a great scene and adds depth to Cassius and his backstory of losing Estelle's mother, And it is also the splash of cold water Estelle needed in order to be able to start taking her dad seriously. So, 2 positives there. I also added, the fact, and I also gave a separate positive to the part where she requests is that we find and free Claudia. So, especially considering she only, makes that request after Estelle and Joshua assure her, no, we're willing to do this. Then there's the rescue of Claudia, which also reveals that she and Chloe are one of the same. And to me, that's the best scene in the whole game for me, in the original version. I kind of lament how they kind of messed it up in the remake, but we'll get there. Estelle's shock at finding out, Sharon Olivier arriving and saving the little girl that is taken hostage, and the comedy mixing with the action is just great stuff. Triple positive there, with 2 special mentions, one a single positive and one a triple positive. Namely, Estelle's hilarious as fuck reaction, because it makes me laugh every single time, and then the specific moment when Shara shows up, being backed up by Olivier. Hey, I honestly have a smile on my face every time I see that scene, so yeah. I was looking forward to it in the remake, and then they botched it hard. But in the original, between the music, the humor, and the fact that it's Sharon Olivier teaming up to do that is just mwah. And if you know the series, particularly what happens with them at the end of Cold Steel 4, you know why I say that. Right. Cassius taking a page out of Dart's book. Or Dart from Legend of Dragoon's book. Hopefully we'll remember what that means. But yeah, Cassius knocking some sense into Richard. Good stuff. The embassy mission is short, funny, and awesome. And of course, the scene. The Weissman reveal. I love this scene. Absolutely love this scene. It is the second best scene in the game for me, uh, aside from Shara and Olivier showing up. The twist is well handled, made sense, and will have massive implications in Sky 2. Ew. Again, it's a twist, so it's supposed to be out of fucking nowhere. You're not supposed to see it coming. The ending with Joshua and Estelle's confessions is fantastic and is my third favorite scene in the whole game. The music, the dialogue, and hell, even the cliffhanger are handled perfectly in my opinion. Gut-wrenching scene worth a triple positive. With a double positive to the outro. 106 story positives. Let's go ahead and get into the negatives now. As you can imagine, there are 25 of them. Let's get into it. Won the battle, lost the cutscene. Yeah, even in the original, it's rampant and it kind of pisses me off. Then there's this big long triple negative that I gave. So this one's going to take some explanation. Constantly throughout the entire game, Estelle acts with surprise every single time someone declares that they know Cassius. This would be fine if it were one or two people she gives that reaction to, or if she stopped being surprised by the time we reach Zeiss, aka the fourth fucking region. But she doesn't, so yeah. She doesn't, hence this negative, which is essentially for empty text. Hell, she doesn't even stop being shocked until meeting with Julia in the frickin' final chapter. It also doesn't help that the same tired joke of Estelle's obliviousness is also on constant repeat during each and every one of these scenes. Why is that shocking? Why is that shocking? Why is that shocking? It's so nauseatingly repetitive that it's just like, what the fuck? Triple negative, if for no other reason than it makes Estelle's growth less believable. Because seriously, by the time we get to the end of the game, she has questioned somebody knowing Cassius like 20 times, and it just pisses me off, you know? I gave General Morgan a double negative because I find him to be an arrogant, paint-thinner guzzling moron who lets us hate boner for bracers for an incredibly stupid fucking reason, namely that General Moron is a notice me senpai dumbass. Yes. And he lets that stupid hate boner of his lead him to making mistakes that a 5-year-old could see past. Namely in Chapter 1 when he accuses the party of collaboration, since he is basically accusing both the Guild and Mayor Maybell. His pride leads to stupidity, and that just makes you question how in the holy hell he ever became a general. Now, had he, say, brought us in for questioning, well then fine, that actually would have been okay, but no, he flat out accuses us, so fuck this asshole, he gets two negatives. And a later negative, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Because now I need to bitch about the Capuas. Having gone through and analyzed them again, the Capuas, especially Josette, are arrogant, annoying, and frankly need to just go away. There is nothing in the entire game that lends itself to having them be redeemed, and the fact that they become allies as early as the prologue of Sky 2 is just... it just feels wrong to me. And yeah, as I was typing it, I ended up just feeling myself getting a headache and gave it a triple negative. Then there's Agate. Oh, good fucking lord, do I hate Agate with every fiber of my being in Sky 1. Every scene, every fucking scene he's in has him treating Estelle and Joshua like they will amount to fuck all instead of what he should be doing, which is being a tutor for the two. Constantly berating them, constantly calling them brats. And given the backstory we've learned about him in Sky 2, that just makes him a fucking hypocrite. Future good characterization does not excuse shit first impressions. Just ask why Schnee and Katsuki Bakugo about that sometime. Right. So yeah, no. Agate in Sky 1 is so anger-inducing that he easily earned a triple negative. Speaking of morons who earn triple negatives, Douche Danon and Guzzles paint thinner constantly, and while that is in character for him, he is useless to the plot, and there is nothing compelling about him at all. Oh, and he's also sexist as fuck, which is just irritating. So, triple negative for that sexist pig. So, yeah. And that's it for the character negatives. Now let's get into the moment negatives. So I mentioned we'd be bitching about General Moron some more, and here we are. Having gone through and analyzed it again, General Moron... Actually... I'm pretty sure I said it perfectly on the stream, so... Oh, but but you know what? No, to reiterate, as I jot down a thing. And him arresting us is fucking stupid. It's fucking stupid no matter how you slice this. He says, as it could easily be flipped on its head if someone like, say, oh, I don't know, Gilius fucking Osborne wanted to spin this to make the Royal Army look either criminal, incompetent, or both. And then he'd have all the ammo he needs. Now, if we take future knowledge out of the equation, though, this still fails on every conceptual level because, as again, it's him arresting us and basically shitting on Maybell. Gee, I hope no one's trying to do a coup d'etat to fuck over the Royal Army. Gee, General Moron, I hope there isn't some colonel who's trying to fuck over the Royal Army by establishing a coup d'etat. Oh, wait! Fuck, I hate Morgan in Sky 1. Oh, god damn it. Then there's the agate scene at Crone Pass. Oh, jeez. Where the fuck do I even begin? I get what the asshole is trying to say, but the way he says it is just wrong to me. We go from the narrative praising Estelle and Joshua taking Cassia's advice to Agate condemning their goal 3 scenes later. Sharon Olivier, where are we headed? And then the arrival at the checkpoint. Sharon Olivier scene. Where do we go? Where do we go? Then us arriving at the checkpoint, and then finally the scene where Agate shows up. If this had been the start of a character arc for Agate, or even led to Agate giving them a good job, I wouldn't be bitching. But he doesn't, so fuck him. Him in this completely unnecessary scene. And that's the other part, too. Agate treating Estelle and Joshua like shit is unnecessary for the plot. And, I would argue, for his character. But that's just my opinion. Speaking of unnecessary as fuck, then there's Agate yanking us off the arson case in Chapter 2. Which also feels wrong to me. Oh, and this is just as bad in the fucking remake because this isn't voiced. See, Ben Pronsky kind of helps alleviate the problem with the Crone Pass as scene, because Ben Pronsky is actually a pretty good voice actor, But this scene isn't voiced in the remake, so that's just made even fucking worse, just as bad as it is here. It feels wrong, as it feels like Audit is pulling rank just to be a dick. He says it's because of our emotions. He says it's because we got a civilian involved. But what he is actually doing is just being a dick. If he said something like, I get that you are close to this, but why not let me handle this and go cool off for a while? Then I'd be a lot more tolerant. But instead, he's invoking a cliche, and I fucking hate it. Ugh. Speaking of cliches that need to go die in a fire, the hot springs freak out. Oh, fuck. So, Estelle's shrieking because she missed both the sign and Tita's warning that the open air bath was unisex is the cliched of lovers see each other naked and the girl flips out scene. Meaning that even when this originally came out in Japan, 2004, the trope was played out, and this part of the scene does nothing but play an already played out scene straight. I personally would have preferred Estelle run out in a panic to the change room, then deny that anything was wrong to Tita before being told by Tita that the sign and about the sign and pointing it out. The only thing that keeps this shit from being a triple negative is that Estelle does not slap Joshua for this. Because that's usually how that fucking goes. Physical violence against the guy, even though the woman is the girl, the girl in the situation is the one fully in the wrong. Its negative is still cemented because she still says it's Joshua's fault when he did nothing wrong. Whew. Anyways. Then there's Audit being a hypocrite when he claims he won't back off of chasing the goons in black, and then saying that he can use Estelle and Joshua. The first part of the hypocrisy is that he is too close to chasing the black goons, which he accused the pair of being back in Rouen, and with the same level of accuracy, by the way. AKA, if they were too close in Rouen, then he's too close here. And the second is he's saying he can use the pair like he should have back in Rouen from the start. Ugh. Okay. I describe it pretty badly, admittedly. But then there's the scene where we leave Tita behind. I hate that scene with every fiber of my being. Telling Tita to stay behind when going to try and save Professor Russell pisses me right the fuck off. First, I get that it's dangerous, but she has already demonstrated her skill with an orbital cannon. Second, Audit isn't saying in his words out of kindness, but cruelty. And third, and the most anger-inducing of all, it's why we fail! Because we didn't take overly emotional teenagers' potential actions into account. Gee, I wonder why everything goes to fucking hell on us. Speaking of go to hell, by the time we're ready to head to Leston Fortress, the tell don't show dialogue about Audit from Joshua just comes across as the writers, or maybe even the localizers, not knowing how to write an asshole with nuance. And then finally, there's Mueller. Mueller's reason, see cover, for not allowing Olivier to attend the dinner is half-baked at best. Erebonia is not on hostile terms, so Olivier being a citizen of the Empire should cause zero problems. Yes, they say the tensions with the Empire are that things are tense with the Empire, but they're not openly hostile. An Erebonian citizen, as long as they can rein him in, which I have no problem believing Jin could easily do, by the way. I feel like that would have been fine, but nope, we have to yank Olivier away because Mueller's got to be an asshole in this game for some reason. I get that if his secret got out, sure, then there would be issues, but no, even then, he has done nothing that warrants concern. I laugh at the scene, sure, but once I think about it, it just starts pissing me off. So, there it is. 25 negatives. Moving on. I gave the New Game Plus a double. I gave the music a double. I gave the save system and the auto saves a double for each. I like the mini map. I like the area maps. I like the tutorials. I feel there's a lot of good info in game. Names, 2 positives for that. I like the visual distinction, because I never question what the hell I'm looking at. There isn't a lot to explore, but I do think there is some decent flow of exploration in this game. I like the quest log, I like the combat animations, I like the core combat. I think Tita is a good utility character. That's not going to be true in the remake because, again, every character is made more potent, so Tita is less special in that regard. I will always love S-Break. The retry offset is awesome. The configuration menu, which I know some people wouldn't really count, but I do, because you get it guaranteed. It's literally a configuration tool that's right there. So, yeah, double positive there. Cooking is useful. I like the enemy variety. I like the interface. I like the HUD. Good. I like the investigation segments. Those are kind of cool. Full heal and level up. I don't care if I stand alone on that one. I will always praise that because that's good. Good. I feel there's good encounter design for the most part. I find there to be good itemization, good viscerality. 33 presentation positives to the gameplay. I gave a positive for the intro, which I chop at the end of the prologue again. Good introduction to everything. Then there's no more positives until we get to the fight with Kurt's team during the tournament. It still feels cheap. Still feeling cheap. Still feeling cheap is kind of fun and does have a strategy to it, unlike the bullshit Raven fight. So, only 2 of them have revives, and they aren't full revives either. So, triple positive there. Then there's the final match of the tournament. Well, it still suffers from some cheapness. I still think it's an actual good challenge. So, triple positive there. Then I also enjoyed the first round against the Giant Mech Reverie. I think that warranted a double positive, as was the second round with it. And then the positive for the third round, which was a great Hyper Beam moment, and where we deliver a cathartic beatdown. With a shitty kind of fake out in the remake, but that's neither here nor there. The power progression curve is not... So now we get into the negatives now. 45 positives, but we got 48 negatives to talk about, so let's get into it. I don't like the power progression curve in this thing. You do get stronger, but the advancement is slower than it could/should be. It's better than I gave it credit for, but worse than what this series would give us later on. And by later on, I basically mean in the very next game. So this is one I may seem the most inconsistent on, scaling exp. In some cases, it's all dependent on how, well thought out it is. Sky 2 and Sky 3 are actually well thought out when it comes to scaling exp. Games like this and Trails from Zero, not so much. In this one, scaling exp is something that scaling exp is honestly something I never usually like, even if it doesn't usually bug me all that much. The problem with it here is very simple. I like leveling in RPGs, and scaling X kind of kills that because it can get to the point where if you want to level to max X for fun, the game flips you the bird and says, fuck you. Yes, high X requirements are the opposite extreme, but honestly, scaling X just makes fights eventually get very boring after a while because you are gaining practically nothing from combat, aka not having fun. What warrants the triple in this case is that within a few short battles, especially if you fight everything, you will outpace the scaling exp, which makes the trash fights absolutely fucking worthless after a short amount of time. So yeah, triple negative to it in this case, which is funny because the remake avoids that problem. Think about that for a second. Or rather, think about that as we go into the, and have that simmer in the back of your mind while we, while going through the remake. I also don't like trying to avoid encounters in this thing. I find the on-field enemies to be absolutely shit in this game. I hate them, and they can go die. I also don't like that enemies tend to blend into the background, which the game does warn you about, but it's still annoying. So, yeah, triple negative for that, too. So, what's funny is that the encounter design, is good and bad. I didn't even realize that. But yeah, I do actually, I do find there to be, well, actually, hang on. Let me see something. No. Whoops. So yeah, we're gonna lower that. I don't think it's gonna affect the score too much, but I'll figure that out after. But yeah, no, the encounter design is pretty bad. Every trash encounter is pretty bad, as oftentimes you encounter trash mobs that come in hordes. Hordes use status effects, have stupidly high evasion, or some combination of the three, and as such, I don't feel justified in giving it any less than 3 negatives. Knockback. Heck, your characters get knocked around the battlefield way too much. It's not at its absolute worst here. It's at its second worst in the Sky trilogy, I would argue. The worst is Sky 3. Jesus. There's some padding issues. I hate the fact that dungeons don't have a mini-map. That's so stupid. Or even a regular map. There's no maps in the dungeons, which is stupid. The status effect fetish, which actually I didn't think was that bad in here in Sky 1, but it's still kind of annoying, as is the backtracking. I find there's some walkthroughitis when it comes to side quests and placing your quartz in your orbment. So yeah, double negative for that. Accuracy and evasion issues, I miss way more often than I should with my attacks. So, in the back of my mind, I was chewing on this up until Chapter 2, and I've come to a realization. The kit in this game is lacking. Let me explain. The problem here is that, in my opinion, you are way too limited in your AoE options. This extends to both arts and S-crafts, as you have limited ones. And the only two party members that have AoE coverage in the game, before Joshua hits level 23, which is more than half the level cap, by the way, They leave the party until the final dungeon. What I'm saying here is that the game is not designed with single target moves in mind, because as mentioned above, the trash swarm you in hordes. So yeah. Then there's the loot in dungeons, specifically in the chests, which for the most part just suck, as 9 times out of 10, only the chests with monsters in them have any real good loot, and the rest are just basic healing items, which also stay low tier until late Ruan to Zeiss. Nice, with Zeiss being the penultimate chapter. Then there's the beginner's trap of selling Septif, and I hate Nebel Valley as a dungeon. Absolutely hate its maze-like design, and the background blending enemies is too frequent, and even harder to see with the fog, because of the fog. Then there's the fight against the Ravens in Chapter 2, which I just do not like because they have full revives, which is the same problem with fighting them in Sky 3, funny enough. King Penguin, double negative. Negative. He has way too much HP at DBZ meme, or over 9k. Well, on Nightmare anyway. He's got 6,800 on normal. Plus the ads that can buff him. Not to mention the obnoxious range in its AoE. Seriously, fuck this boss. Double negative. Then there's Chapter 3 from a gameplay perspective, which in my opinion sucks. The mobs are obnoxious, the quest monsters are irritating AF, and a good chunk of the quests are questionable on how the hell one would figure them out without a guide. The temp librarian quest is coming to mind immediately. For as bad as the fight against the Ravens in Chapter 2 is the tournament fight against them is even worse. They have all the same issues cranked up to 11. Double negative there. I'm also not a fan of the trial and error stealth section in Grand Cell. Hell, it's not the worst I've seen, but the field of vision on the guards borderlines on bullshit most of the time. Then you factor in the trial and error nature of it, and the fact that if you get caught once, regardless of how far into it you get, you are sent back to the very start. Yeah, that's a triple negative. I'm not a fan of the Grand Sealed sewers. They're not bad on the west side, but on the east side, the east side can fuck right off with its bullshit encounters and ridiculous and obnoxious maze-like design. So 2 negatives there. Then there's the villa, which is honestly annoying as a dungeon because of one thing and one thing only. The constant fights against the same trash mobs. Even if you know what you're doing and where to go, you have to fight the randos at least 3 to 4 times, one per exit into the courtyard. Combine that with how boring it is to fight most fights in this game in general, and it all adds up to a double negative. With an obnoxious difficulty spike from the pair of heavily armed soldiers just before you rescue Claudia. Seriously, 700 damage? Fuck right off. Then there is ditto for raiding Grand Cell to rescue Queen Alicia, except even worse, as there is an overly hard boss fight with Lawrence that must be won for 100%. This section in particular, I think, is worth 2 negatives. Speaking of that Lawrence fight, let's talk about why it is, hands down, the worst fight in the game and one of the worst in the series. First, he heals way too often. Second, his spells cause mute and confuse. And third, he adores canceling your arts. Oh, and finally, fourth, you have to use 3 mandatory battles to prep for it. The only reason it wasn't worse for me this time around is because I was using a guide and was reminded of his status effect fetish. It still sucks as a fight, so triple negative, which is going to be ironic when we get to the remake. Then there's the final dungeon, the sealed area. It sucks as a final dungeon. I'd have to go through the rest of the series to determine if it is my absolute bottom, as there are a few contenders for that spot, but good lord, where the hell do I even begin? Let's start with this being the most samey and confusing dungeon to navigate, especially if you're going for the loot, which honestly, for the first time ever, is actually worth it. And then there are the chest encounters, which all suck, despite the aforementioned rewards being good. And then there's the fact that you have to backtrack multiple maze-like floors to resupply. Yeah, not a fan. Triple negative. Also, I gave the outro a negative as well, because from a gameplay perspective, it is just tiresome and sloggy as hell, to the point of it being obnoxious. Sorry for no real display of anything from the gameplay, but a lot of it is basically just straightforward, you know? So not a fan. I might go ahead and just show off a couple of the horde, show off an example of the horde trash mobs, but otherwise, yeah, no. But yeah, no. It's a whole lot of irritation, and I'm not a fan, you know? But that is Sky 1. I have audited Sky 1 now. Yeah. I do think you should play this at least once. I do. But I would be lying if I said that I thought that this was a flawless game. Obviously. I'm not a fan of the gameplay that much, and honestly, yeah, this is the first of many examples of better on New Game Plus. Not on Replay, New Game Plus specifically. But that's it. That's the Sky 1 rating video. I apologize for the lack of clips in the later part of this, but there it is. Next up, the Sky 1 Remake. That'll be interesting. Till then, Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. See you later. Perfect time for that song to end.